Okay, welcome live from the apocalypse. I'm Dan-O. I'm the Carl Malone of working from home. My co-host, K Diggy, aka
Hey,
the Sam Cassell of Living Well. Welcome to
yeah, I
another.
may have to steal that. That's actually it rolls off the tongue. I like it.
You got to do it now. So I gave a bevy of choices again for us to talk about here, and you went right to Ka's Descendants of Cain.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can give the people
Yeah,
just a
man.
second. Change go ahead and explain what was your thought process while I distract them. Let me see. Boom.
Why I wanted to talk about Descendants of Cain? I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot here to explore. Um, I mean, it's only about 30 minutes. It's only about 30 minutes, but there's just so much in here to unpack. So I felt like it would be like a good topic to go discuss.
Yes. I mean, we should talk about it. Ka is a real crazy story for people who don't know. Like I wrote about it back 2012 or something. It was just an incredible story. Um, this guy, I mean, he was in several rap groups. He was in a group named the UN, uh, and he was in a group named Nightbreed with his friend Kevin, who gets mentioned a lot here.
Yeah.
Um, but it didn't catch. Nothing really caught on, and so he was just fire chief, just like working in the fire station, and he put together Ironworks 2008, I believe, and he put it
Mm-hmm.
together just for his friends, just to kind of release to his people, and it was just going to be his statement on things, the world, um, and that got in the hands of Jizza. Jizza, the Wu-Tang Clan, put him on Pro Tools for a guest feature, and that put him on the map,
Mm.
at least in the underground. When you score a spot on a Jizza album, the New York Underground is listening, and that set the stage for his 2012 release, which Variety had a list of the 50 most New York albums ever, and it was on there. It was like above some really important stuff. Um,
Wow.
but it was a real thing, man. And you start to hear other people talk about it. Like Sean Price was talking about that as one of his favorite albums ever. People were noticing, and the reviews were really what carried it because he was just incredibly well reviewed all the time. And you can see why. His albums are
Mm-hmm.
always 11 songs. They're never too long. They're always incredibly considered, right?
Yeah.
And this is, there's so much to unpack. In a way, it's a critic's dream, right? There's so much you could write about. So, looking at the body of work here, they say it's 6 albums. They keep writing it, but that's wrong. It's 7 because Pro Tools is a real thing. Sorry, Ironworks is a real thing. If you listen to Ironworks, it stands up next to anybody's album. Ironworks, 2008, Grief Pedigree, 2012, The Knight's Gambit, 2013, Days with Dr. Yen Lo, with DJ Preservation, Honor Killed the Samurai, 2016, Orpheus versus the Sirens with Animos as Hermit and the Recluse, 2018, and Descendants of Cain. Yep. So that's more than enough to get him considered, right? Like to
Yeah.
look at his career and say, "Wow, look at what he did."
Yeah. And
So,
it's been 8 years. 8 years,
yeah,
seven
since he broke the
seven
spotlight,
projects.
right? Sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
yeah. I mean, and we should talk about just what makes him unique, what makes this experience unique. Um, I mean, we can talk about the covers first, since I kind of flashed a little bit of virtual background there.
Hmm.
The cover for this is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. Um, and it's not the first. It's just not. I think the cover for Knight's Gambit might be the most beautiful, like, representation of him. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Um, but yeah, how many of the covers have you looked at?
You know what? I've seen, like, I've seen I've seen all of the covers, but none of them have really like stuck with me like this one has. And it's interesting. The story behind this one was like, I've seen the cover 3 or 4 times, but when I was doing the research, like I saw a GIF of the cover for the latest album. I saw a GIF for the cover, like on the full screen,
Yeah.
and that's when I was able to see it on the full screen. I was able to see the details of it and how intricate it really was.
Let me share the Knight's Gambit cover,
Okay.
and see if you can see. Are you seeing it?
Uh, you're starting to share your screen. I see.
Are you
Yeah,
seeing
I
it?
see it.
So like that. I mean, that to me is the best representation of Ka, like in a photographic form. Like the it's the chessboard, it's the rain on the chessboard,
Yeah, I see. I
it's
didn't even.
it's the dirt on the chessboard. It's unbelievable. I mean, that is staged. That is glorious.
And see, that's the thing about Ka. You know, this cover kind of describes him. Like if you're looking at it in passing, because I have seen that cover before, so I recognize the chessboard, but unless you're really paying attention, you're not going to get the full details of it. If you just glance at it in passing, you're only going to say, "Oh, it's a chessboard with a knight on it." But when you stop and you observe it, and you take in the details, the story becomes clear. And that's the same with Ka, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think Tom Brehan, who used to be one of my favorite writers, fell inside of himself, but he once described the right way to listen to Ka is that you just kind of like don't even worry about catching everything.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about it. Put it on. You can just live in this weird space. You can just live in this sonic space that is just because it's so strange and it's so different, so singular.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
just live there. And he says you'll catch stuff. You'll keep catching new stuff, and you'll keep being surprised.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of work, it deals with the subconscious. You know what I mean? Like I think you listen to it initially and then you step away from it, but at the same time it's always going on in the background. Like what you listen to is working on it in the background of your mind. So
Right.
then the next time you hear it, you pick up on something that your conscious didn't pick up on the first time. Like I listened to the album again today, and there was a line that I picked up on, and I had heard it like 4 or 5 times before. I listened to the album today, and there was a line that I picked up on the sixth listen.
It's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
it's hard to deal with. Like in my favorite song on there, it right off the bat was Old Justice. I think it's number
Oh,
8. Yeah. Um,
last one. It's the second to last one.
yeah. Maybe it's 10 then.
10. Yeah.
Because 9 is Sins of the Father. Yeah. So we, and the thing about Old Justice is he produced that. That's his beat.
Ooh,
Now it's his beat, and the light fingering of the guitar and the sample. It was just
gorgeous sample.
it's just one of those things where you could live in it. And I just thought this is the best beat he's ever done. And I've listened to it so much. I was listening to it the other day. I couldn't believe myself because he said, cycle bloody till my men's straight.
That's the line. That's the line that I picked up on today.
And I was like, dude. And he repeats it a little bit, and when he does the repeating of it, you can kind of hear a little bit of a smile. You can kind of hear him being like, "I make jokes now. You make jokes now. What is this?"
Yo.
It doesn't even make sense. But the guy, you know, I mean, the things he says. So to give you an impression of why it's so weird that he jokes, and when I set up an email for Free Music Empire, I said it has to be a line from the first Ka song I ever fell in love with.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cold Facts from Grief Pedigree. And the line is, um, you know, all my, you know, all the people I grew up with are good spirited goons. Now I only see them in tombs or in visiting rooms.
Mm.
And like, that's the kind of dude this guy is. Um, and we'll get more into that. But the the humor was in there, and the last song, the dedication to Mimi and Kevin and
I
his
love.
mom, I like it more and more each
Oh.
time. It's just because it's so different than everything else. It's not nearly as dense. It's not nearly as, you know, kind of mysterious. It's
Right.
very straightforward and it's very
Yeah.
sincere. Uh,
I mean, that was the most human that I've heard him sound on a track.
yeah,
Oh man, that.
we took my son to an empty parking lot, and my wife went to the grocery store, and I was sitting there with my phone to my ear, listening to this album while he scooted. and, um, and I'm catching all this, and I'm just like, man, I had this whole theory running that the level, because to me, the great thing about Ka, the singular, what makes him the greatest lyricist in the world, in my opinion, is that no one deals with damage better than he does.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're all dealing with. We're all dealing with our own damage and what our damage causes other people for damage, and like
Yep.
trying to eliminate or minimize cycles of damage.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a line that, and so I started writing down lines that really stuck with me from this album. This was the line that he goes, "As much as I heal, got to deal with my scars, or that got to deal with the fact that my scars are here to stay."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, but go ahead. What were you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I can read the every now and then. You know, I love opening verses, right?
Oh, let's
So,
hear it.
uh, loved things I should have lusted. I rushed it. Snubbed things I should have trusted. My
Mm.
comments ain't for quick alignment. It's for full adjustment. If saw who did it and chopped with the cops, the hood discussed it. As such, was in touch with the untouchable. Found out if you really tough when the gut stuck to you. I mean, it's harrowing stuff. And it's the comparison. Oh, so I'm in the parking lot. I got the phone in my ear, and I'm thinking the level of anger and grief that he has over his own anger. There is no other rapper who feels like this and articulates this kind of deep regret.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Even Malice becoming no Malice, he still doesn't regret nearly as much as what God does. And he, Ka is like Bruce Banner. He is like the Hulk.
Hmm. Go ahead. What in what way?
You remember there's like scenes in the Hulk in the Avengers movie where they're like Banner comes back and he's like, "What happened?" And the rest of the Avengers are like, "You should have seen it. You tore him up out there." And they're like, elbow nudge, like, "You killed it, man," and you tore a guy's head off. And he's looking at like, it's just, oh no, like he's just ruined. It's just not who he wants to be.
Right.
And that's kind of it's the old kind of Lou Ferrigno old Hulk show of him just constantly picking up his life and trying to reshape it because he doesn't want to be that guy anymore.
Right.
And he bounces between being the new guy and going and those old instincts all throughout his catalog, especially on this.
Man, that's a great way to put it, because I think you're right. I think the music helps him deal with the things, like it's like his coping. It's how he deals with the things that he went through, but he's trying to deal with them without looking at them. And this is what I find interesting about Ka, because he's not trying to go through the emotion of what happened. He's trying to deal with the mechanics and understand it on a mechanical level. How did I get in this situation? What were the factors that led me into this situation?
Yeah, I mean and he's his vision is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I always think, because I've worked for a lot of places and worked for places that became other places, and after a while you're like like what happens to these old banks that go out of business, that get eaten up by another bank? And how long before you're the only person that remembers that bank existed?
Mm.
Apply that to his childhood, man. Apply that to what he went through. New York is changing.
Hmm.
What did Carol Kane was on a podcast? Yeah, that's right, Carol Kane in the Ka podcast. Carol Kane was talking about New York and how it changed. I think she had a really good way of putting it. She said, back in the day when you got off the subway stop, you stepped into another world, another universe. And she
Wow.
said, now you step into a different version of the same place with the same stores.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, and I think that's kind of what he's dealing with. Um, it is crazy. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. First, I want to talk about one of my first questions is: does Ka have a monotone flow, or do you hear variance in his flow?
I used to think he had a monotone flow, but I think it's almost, because I think about now, that the way I think about it, because I think about it as almost it's akin to the R&B singer D'Angelo.
Ooh, okay.
So
I'm into this.
people used to like, one of the things that people got on to D'Angelo about was, yo, why is he always like mumbling?
Right, I
You
can't
know what I
understand what
mean?
he's saying.
I
Yeah.
can't understand. And so with Ka, the monotone forces you to have to lean in more to listen to what he's saying. And I think that's by design.
And
I
it's
don't think I
an
oh
old poet's trick, right? Like in a loud room of everyone talking, a poet takes the stage, gets behind the mic. What he should do is talk very softly,
yeah.
impactfully, and make everyone stop talking.
And I just feel like a lot of hip hop now is based on, you know, vocal melody, like having, it's not about what you're saying. It's more about like
How?
the vocal
Yep.
variants and
Mhm.
developing a melody, like a sing. And a lot of rapping now is sing songy, I should say. And I think Kyle wants it by design. I think he doesn't want to focus on the vocal melody. He wants us to focus on what he's actually saying.
The
So
tough
he's
part.
designed, yeah,
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, he's designed this flow that's like very, it's not monotone, but it's like very steady, so that you have to lean in and listen to what he's saying.
The tough part about the sing-songy stuff is if you say it's too sing-songy and there's no, it's an emphasis on melody, there isn't a lot of rapping, people are going to think you're taking shots at the guys who started that. But the guys who started that have a really good grasp on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Young Thug knows how to do Young Thug. I'm not mad at Young Thug. Like Future knows how to do Future. Like, you know,
Yep.
those guys are quite good, right? Like, I'm not
Yep.
mad at Little Yachty. I'm mad at the guys post Little Yachty who are doing Little Yachty. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So that's the DOA thing, right? Where people were like, "Man, he's dissing T Pain." You're like, "No, man, he's dissing people sounding like T Pain."
Right.
It's different.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get that clear. But yeah, Pitchfork had a good quote in the review by Paul A. Thompson on Kai. They said his vocals are often hushed, but always forceful, like he's speaking in a stage whisper and the stage is collapsing.
I like that imagery.
It is good. For me, the image I've always put forward is um, you go and you hang out with the uncle you don't see much, right?
Hmm.
And he breaks out the alcohol, right? And after a few, you're all of a sudden having a conversation the likes of which you've never had. This is not someone you've gotten personal with. All of a sudden, you're to the wind, and he's whispering the grittiest, most hardcore shit you've ever heard in your life. And you're like, "Is this my old uncle? Like, what is this? Was he? Is he in the Gambino family? This is unbelievable!" Like, you're. He always seemed nice. He always seemed cool. But now you're in this conversation, and he's about to teach you something, and it's
Yeah.
a hard lesson. And like that's always how it came off. How it came off to me.
Yeah.
And the softest songs that he has, Vessel, uh, you know, they always feel like a conversation that only you two can be a part of.
Yeah. That's a good way. Yeah.
So,
And as I said, it's not that he's boring. It's all deliberate. That's an artistic choice to do it like that.
yeah, dude. I mean, what is it? What is it? Oh, another good one. Another good one from the Paul A. Thompson. One of my favorite recent Pitchfork reviews. Well, I always trash on him. I want to give him a little credit there. There are no giant leaps or sharp left turns in his repertoire. There are grooves worn deeper and deeper, facades stripped away. The
Mhm.
biblical story of Cain and his offspring here evokes unshakable feelings about what it means to be damned. what's learned versus what's in your blood, and whether clean hands are a luxury everyone can afford. It includes some of the most striking writing of Ka's career, the naughtier verses and the blunter ones too, and is utterly immersive. Whole lifetimes of
Yeah.
fear and pain and death and regeneration condensed into 33 minutes.
Oh, I completely agree. No, I was set on that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a.
I mean,
Yeah.
I oh, I was gonna say, I mean, I think the song that really stood out for me, aside from I Love, was Patron Saints. Uh, which is, I mean, Patron Saint kind of summed up what Paul was talking about in his review with that passage, and it also has like one of the most, probably the most horrifying line I've ever heard on wax in my life. Particularly where he's talked about his dad shot the neighbor and then handed him the gun because he knew what he would do. He that Ka knew what to do with it.
Yep.
I mean, that's the type of image you're not going to get that. I mean, you're not going to get that from anyone else. But
Well, and the sneaky thing that Ka's able to do, for the life of me, I can't even handle his ability to do this. Is he somehow is able to put those pieces together, these bits together.
mm-hmm.
You know, like so you have that piece. His dad hands him the gun, right? But then later on, there's a cousin who tells him he's like his dad. You remember this? And he says, I nearly blacked out. I was about
Right.
to put him in a box. And when you put that together, it's these
Yeah.
cut up scenes. And he doesn't even put them in order, but they are in order. I'm telling you, man.
See, I didn't even make that. I remember that line. I didn't even make that connection.
Whew. I mean, what is the DJ Booth when they wrote about this? They said Ka's voice flows through the beat like a world-weary spirit revisiting old haunts.
Yeah,
There is a haunted house aspect of it. There's no question about that.
absolutely.
Um, Second question: how does the production on Cain feel versus other Ka projects you've heard?
I would say, I mean, the production on this album was immaculate. It was just very, and I know it felt warm to me, but maybe I'm just thinking because I Love was the last song. That was the last impression that I have of it. But it was very, what I will say, was very, the whole album was immaculate. Each beat was crystal clear, very polished. The samples were like, it just felt very, maybe that's the best way to put it. It just felt, the album felt, the production particularly felt incredibly polished.
And it's in a way that, and I want to come back to the I Love, but I think what you're talking about, it's almost the Currency effect, right? Currency's been rapping for 400 years. He has this deep
Mm-hmm.
roster of producers that he's worked with, that he's done full projects with, right? So when
Right.
he wants to get serious and put together a serious album, he can put together an album with an incredible group of producers.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Ka doesn't have that longevity in rap, but it's not for nothing, man. 2012 and before till now, he's got connections. So he's got the beat from Rock Marciano on Sins of the Father, which is an incredible beat.
Oof.
And then he's got DJ Preservation because he did a full album with him, Days with Dr. Yen-Lo. So he's got
Mm-hmm.
Preservation. And by the way, Preservation has an album coming called Eastern Medicine, Western Illness. That's
Mm.
like apparently like all Hong Kong based sampling.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's gonna be
I'll check
nasty.
that one.
And he said in the interview with the Dad Bod Rap Pod that Ka helped him line up these features, bro. He said, who do you want on this? And he said, I'd love to work with Trees. Like, I'll get him. He's got these
I
relationships.
mean,
So he did an album with Animos, like Orpheus and the Sirens. He gets beats from Animos. So now you start to round out this roster, right? Animus, Preservation, Cos Production, Rock Marciano. It doesn't have a sameness to it.
right.
It
Yes.
changes, it
Agreed.
shifts.
Yes.
That leads me to my next question. Is this fun to listen to?
You know, it's I don't know if fun is the okay. Let me ask this: how would you define fun?
I mean, whenever you're doing like dense art, you're worried that people aren't going to get through the ride.
Okay.
How many times have you started a TV show and thought, you're doing good, everybody's doing good, but this is sad, and I don't want to do this right now.
Right.
And just stop,
Right.
right?
Okay. You know, I've honestly felt that way about some other cop projects. Not that they weren't good, high quality, but it's just like so much to get through. Like you have to take a pause. You know what I mean? And regroup, and then go forward again. But okay, if by that definition, I think this album is very. It's very fun, and I think a lot of it has to do with the production. When the production, like when you have a variance in beats, that really helps. And there's also a lot of humor. It's very subtle, as you mentioned. It's very subtle, but there's a lot of humor in this Ka album that I didn't really find in other Ka albums that I've listened to.
Yeah, man. This next question goes along with what we already talked about. Where does this cover rank in your 2020 album covers?
Oh, I mean, this is just purely artistic wise. This is probably my number one cover because I mean, it's do you think it's hand drawn?
It's got to be somebody drew that. I mean, it's somebody did that up, but he does this somehow with black and white and just makes it the best. The best. It's yeah. And it's such a good metaphor for his career because some of these beats are so minimal.
Yeah.
And they shine. And it's, some people have the gift.
I mean, and I think with me, I think the covers should, like, if someone buys an album, they should be able to look at the cover and be able to get a gist of what the album is going to sound like.
Right.
And I think, you can look at that cover. The cover is perfectly in line with the themes of the music. So, I mean, I think it's a brilliant, brilliant cover.
I'm with that, man. So is Ka a true recluse, or is his flow so singular you can't invite him for a guest verse? Can you imagine him rapping on a Danny Brown song?
What I think is, I think that Ka's gravity is so strong that anyone who works with Ka is going to have to adapt to fit Ka's aesthetic. And I mean, the only guest verse that you had on this album was Rock Marcy. And to me, it sounded like Rock kind of adapted his flow a little bit to fit the aesthetic that Ka had created. And so I don't really think, I think anytime you get on a track with Ka, you're going to have to adapt to his aesthetic. and adapt to the world that he wants to create.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I was thinking about it today, listening to the parking lot of like, dude, this guy doesn't even do metaphors, man. He doesn't even compare shit. Like he's not like I was thinking of that kind of standard issue, like Slaughterhouse. You remember Slaughterhouse?
Yes.
Think of how many Slaughterhouse verses were like, you know, I'm the so and so of my rhymes. Like so and so, I'm the greatest of all time, you know, or whatever. And it
Right.
was all just like, you know, I'm like this person, I'm like that person, and like totally opposite. Like, everything you were mad about Game doing is completely oppositional to what Ka does. You would never dream of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so I don't think I couldn't see him that, and I don't think, I mean, I think Ka, when he creates a song, like he has a specific message in mind. So if you're going to be on the track with him, you're going to have to adapt to the vision that he wants to create.
By the way, I got to fit this in here. From Ka rarely does interviews. He rarely does, you know, if you follow him, he tweets occasionally. He is his own person. But in 2015, he did an interview with Passion of the Weiss. Um, he said, I'm inspired by pain, by heartache. It's very moody, not fake moody. I'm not trying to make you cry or sit and ponder. It's just stuff that I feel. And when I feel it, I happen to have a gift of writing down exactly how I feel. By doing that, I think people can feel it too, which is beautiful. I'm into music. If you're into the business side, you better cater to what these people want to hear. Music, on the other hand, is forever. That's my opinion. I want to do music that you could pop in 100 years ago and 100 years from now and still get that feeling. So there was a necessity for me to do my own thing. There just was no label going to sign me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, and the Moody thing, the fake Moody, can you imagine? It's like a 3-person song, right? And about trials and tribulations, you know? And Drake starts off, right? She broke his heart. You know, this is probably circa early aughts. You know, he had the shape up and she broke his heart. And it was, and she probably, honestly, they never talked, you know? Uh, and then Big Sean goes and he's like, she broke my heart. And then he makes 6 to 7 sex jokes. And I hope I'm being kind enough to these people. Anyway, and then Ka jumps in and is just like, I saw him in the street with, you know, holding his guts, you know, and just like, oh my God.
But with him, it's, I mean, the flow kind of plays into it because the way he speaks about it, the things like these pains and the horrible things that he's experienced, he speaks about it so coldly. The flow is so monotone, so cold,
Mm-hmm.
that you can't help but being like, it's like, it's almost, what's the word I want to use? It almost causes goosebumps for people. You know what I mean? Because it's just so unsettling.
It's chilling.
And the way it's chilling.
chilling.
Yeah, that's the word I want to use.
I think in this interview, which is fantastic, by the way, he talked about one of my favorite songs that he has called Pisaki on The Knight's Gambit. And he said, that song gives me chills.
Mm.
Because the beat is so minimal and so singular and so striking. And his voice is the same way. It mirrors it. That you really you're like, oh, you know, it is just
Yeah,
chilling. Um, but it's powerful and it's very singular. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
this next question I think is really important. Rappers who aim for poetic always get maligned for it by critics who want to turn up. I've read critics who make fun of poet rappers but love Ka. Again, we're at Tom Brehan. Why is that? Is the grittiness something that masks the poetry? Is that make it go over okay? What is it that makes it different than other poetry based rappers? Because clearly poetry is at the heart of this to me.
Right. I think for me, what it is that he doesn't use sentiment. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this word correctly.
Sentimentality?
Sentimentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sentimentalness. He doesn't use that as a crutch. So you can see with, like, you know, when you hear other rappers who are trying to be poetic, you can almost see them using emotion as a crutch to kind of emotionally manipulate you. Like when you hear the song, you're like, oh damn, this is gonna be a deep song. Like I'm supposed to feel like this certain type of way about it. This is what they're trying to go. This is what they're trying to create from me. This emotion, and that, I mean, I guess that's how you could do with all art, pretty much. Like when an artist creates something, they're trying to get a specific type of emotional reaction from a person or from the person who's listening.
And I
You know what I
think
mean?
it's a really important point because what I think what you're talking about is there's things that people expect you to do when you
Mm-hmm.
are signifying that you're a poetic rapper, right?
Right. Okay.
When you say you're like a rapper but you're a poet, they're expecting like what Wale did on Diced Pineapples.
Oh.
That's what they're expecting. Am I wrong?
Oh,
They're
that's
expecting that. I mean, it's
yeah.
they're expecting you to go in there and do that. And the interesting thing is, sentimentality is not an important part of poetry. The most important part is that it have you in it, but also that that you control the space.
Mm,
Space is everything. And space
right.
is everything is exactly what Ka says in this 2015 interview. Give you an example, like structural, like the form of poetry mirrored in his form. Um, there's a song on Honor Killed the Samurai. I think it's called Mourn at Night. And the chorus is, he gone, we mourn at night. And it's very important that those there's periods after each two words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Space. He gone, we mourn at night. It gives it a totally different feeling.
Mm,
If you said he gone, we mourn at night, that's different, right?
right.
You control the space. As a poet, you control the space. You control
I
it with commas, you control it with new paragraphs, you control it by putting the words in the middle versus at the left, right? And he
okay,
controls the space.
right. You're not right. He relies more on the technicality of it than the sentimentalness of it. Like,
And
because he knows, as you said, he's a master of space. He knows what he's doing when he phrases a sentence a certain type of way. He knows what he's doing on the technical level, and he knows what he's saying. He's a master. He's a craftsman at spacing like that.
and
And in a
so
way, like when when I listen to Wale, and I kind of cringed when I heard when you mentioned Diced Pineapples, because that I like Wale, but that's the most cringeworthy poet rap verse I've ever heard in my life, and I can't even, like, I've heard it twice and I will never listen to it again in full. But yeah, I think the difference between the two is that there's not with that Wale verse, there's not like a appreciation for the technical ability, the technical side of poetry, as opposed to with Ka, like I know what he's thinking, you know.
Well, and I think the you really illuminated this one, because I think what you're saying is these critics don't actually hate poetry. They don't care if you
No.
want to weave poetry into it. They just don't want you to be that guy who is like, I'm a poet.
Yeah.
And ooze all over this thing. They want you to be serious about your business. If you're gonna
Yeah, because
incorporate poetry, be in charge of it.
right. Because a lot of it, because it could come off as emotionally manipulative. You know what I mean? Like,
In the wrong hands.
they're trying, when you hear something, they're trying to get an emotional, they're trying to get a specific reaction from you, so it seems disingenuous.
Yep. This last question is a dig at me, buddy. It's me digging at me. If Frank Ocean's production is as jagged as this, and his lyrics are as dense, could Cobb be a big deal, or is he destined to be his own cult, Heart of the Region style?
It's interesting because you sent over an interview.
The 2015, yeah.
Yes, and in one of the segments of the interview, he mentions Van Gogh.
Oh yeah, cutting off his ear. Yeah. Being discovered after he died. Mm-hmm.
And I think I honestly think that's what he's going for. I think that he knows what he's doing now is not going to get the appreciation it deserves, but as time passes and when he passes, not to get like morbid or anything, I think his music will withstand the test of time and he will get the appreciation that it deserves. But do I think he's going to get recognized like he should in his lifetime? Honestly, I don't think so, no. But I don't think that that's his goal to. You know what I mean? That's where he's different from a lot of rappers and artists, because he's not doing it for the recognition per se. That's not his, or I should say that's not his driving force.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing it for the craft, and he knows that if he focuses on his craft and develops his craft, the recognition will come eventually.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, there's absolutely nothing wrong about getting morbid on the Cop podcast. All right, this isn't a podcast. I'm still a dad. Whatever this is. But yeah, it's good stuff. But yeah, I think he's okay just being his own cult leader.
Yeah.
And just enjoying it, and I don't think he's worried about it. But he, part of this was just my dig at me that, like, I don't really care about Blonde. If I'm honest, I like Nikes a lot. But Frank Ocean, like, I really like Channel Orange, and I like a lot of stuff off Nostalgia Ultra, but I really thought Blonde was hard to listen to. It felt like he was trying to solve the whole world.
And I hate to say this because I love Frank. I love Frank's music. But I think now he's starting to cruise. He's starting to lean too much on the legend of Frank Ocean as opposed to the music. I think the difference between him and Ka is that Frank Ocean he's developed this mythology, this legend around him. So when people say that they love Frank Ocean, yes, they're talking about his music, but I think it's now shifting more. They're talking about mythology and the mysterious air of Frank Ocean much more than the music. Because
Totally.
if you look at it, I mean, he's only really had 2 projects since 2012, Channel Orange and Blonde.
Yeah.
So
Well, he had
he's
the
not producing.
Endless thing that was awful. What was that thing?
That was just a ploy to get out of his contract.
No question. It's
so
terrible.
that he can make money.
I don't accept.
Yeah, so that he can make money on Blonde.
That's fair.
But the reason why Endless was, people loved that because it played into the mystery around Frank Ocean.
Right.
And it's almost like that thing where, oh, you didn't get Endless? Well, you probably haven't reached that level of sophistication where you get a Frank Ocean album. So they probably we'll just write you off. You're not there yet.
One of the strengths of Ka is that he doesn't have that teach the world mentality. He doesn't have that need to impress people or whatever. His stuff feels incredibly naturally deep because it's so concise.
Yep.
I want to take a look at some of these lyrics, bro. Let's share screen. Bang. So, you seeing it?
Yep.
Patron saints. I mean, might be the best lyrical rap song of the year. So let's look at it. All our Santas carried them hammers. That's the first line. Our guidance counselors was talented scramblers. Spiritual leaders ran a number hold. Tycoons moved in vests and kept a money roll. Well, life's tribal fight for survival, that's all it's ever been. Nothing blessed. Even the bonds of friends are tested. Would you surrender if you did it, but your man's arrested? Oh. I mean, this one, this next line, I really kind of did think about the game. I really did think about some of these other dudes because it's D-Day each week in BK is fabulous, right? I mean, that's like, if Busta Rhymes said that over an Arab music beat, it would be, that's the chorus, right? I mean, he's just going nuts. Yeah. But he follows that with "You see us here grimacing." Author-wise, from an author choices standpoint, he's always teasing a bigger image than what he's saying. Never marinate on beef you don't plan on finishing, because every effort's for the record. We ain't here scrimmaging. Soon as sun starts shining, they try diminishing. Let's see here. There's just more. There's more. I mean, it's. A monk swore a vow of silence to the Jakes. This stretch is unbelievable. A monk swore a vow of silence to the Jakes. Our yogis did stretches upstate. Our Sir Lancelots at round tables cutting eighths. Our mogul just caught another case. Started with less, then progressed to bare minimum. Can't just happen upon chips. Gotta be here winning them. And this was mentioned by Thompson in the review. This last part. I was raised to age a few years in a day. If not elite, didn't eat if you didn't pray. As much as I heal, had to deal, all my scars are here to stay. Our sensei spent days peddling, our heroes sold heroin. This is what pulls away from, like, because I was thinking the only album I could compare this to would be Damn, right?
Okay.
Because, like, back when I had a philosophy podcast, I did a ton of research on what Damn meant. And we did a long podcast on it, and it helped me understand the album better.
Mm-hmm.
But Kendrick loves secret meanings, hidden meanings.
Yeah.
Layers, right? He loves that. To Pimp a Butterfly, I mean, all that stuff. It's all signs, numerology, and inferences, right?
Mhm.
He God really doesn't do that, even though he's doing that. He still can end the song by just saying, "Our hero sold heroin." That, um,
I
and
mean,
yeah,
that was the song that really stood out for me because, as I said, that song, he could have used sentimentalness as a crutch for that
right,
song.
totally.
But I think what he's really examining the problem. He's saying, like, look, I grew up in this environment where we weren't given heroes. So we had to go out and we had to find heroes that were in our community. And yes, these guys, or our heroes, were not perfect men and did a lot of horrible and awful things. But there were certain qualities that these guys had that I aspired to have as well.
Now these two,
Okay.
hopefully guys can see my screen. I'm sharing my screen. On Prey, if he ain't from the maelstrom, I never felt him. Friends that died, I feel would have survived if I was there to help them.
Mm.
Ooh. And the next one, I mean, it's actually even worse than we talked about. One of my cousins said he was going to beat me like my pops. I blacked out, was ready to leave him in a box. My sister calmed me down, saw me reaching for the shots. That's my linchpin. Since then, we've been on the rocks. Now, it's kind of a crazy thing to tell the story. It's kind of crazy to be like, my sister doesn't really like me anymore. But as a Ka fan, I was I was broken by this one. Do you know why?
Why?
I think it was on Orpheus versus the Sirens in 2018. One of my favorite moments was him in the middle of the song just talking about how proud of his sister he was because she got her degree.
Mm.
He's a family man, dude. And it's very important to him, and these ethics are important. And I was very sad for him that relationship with his sister had been jeopardized because it's obvious that it's meant so much to him.
Right, and that's the interesting part is that the way that he said it so matter of fact,
Right,
like,
right.
we're on the rocks. There's no emotion in now we're on the rocks. You know what I mean? It's just saying, like, it's just very almost like black and white cause and effect type of thing. Like, this happened, so we're on the rocks, and then he moves on. He doesn't even. That's what I love about him. Like, he'll go in, he'll say something, and then just keep it moving.
And
And you don't even have time.
Oh boy.
And that's why I'm saying you don't have time to consciously process it. And that's why, so you listen to it, and then you're lying down and you're really thinking about it, and you're probably like, wait a second, damn, is he on the rocks with his sister? Like, what's going on with that? You know what I mean? Your subconscious is the one that has to catch up with all of it because there's being so much thrown at you, which I love.
And yeah, man. I mean, and the strength that one of the strengths that people used to tell me I had with the creative writing was that I could give you like one line that felt like the realest shit ever in this really succinct way. And
Mm-hmm.
Sins of the Father, I think, has the best example of that. If mentors ain't dispensed with war, you got bad advice. Put that on a t-shirt. I'm wearing it tomorrow, dude. That's amazing. That's so good.
What does that line mean to you?
If the mentor you had was teaching you war instead of teaching you how to get to peace and the money, which nobody makes money in war, right? Like, uh, you know, when mob families go to war, it costs them money, right?
Right.
They're blowing up each other's operations. Um, if mentors ain't dispensed with war, you got bad advice. You got a bad mentor. Your mentor is teaching you how to beat people up, not how to like make it out of the poverty you're in.
Mm.
It's everything in this one love. Sins of the father. It makes so much sense. Um, yeah, yeah.
I
So
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say it, it's startling how efficient he is. You know what I
Totally.
mean? Like for me, like if let's say that you've never heard a Ka album before, this album is 33 minutes. You could listen to this album and have an idea of who Ka is just by listening to these songs. You could know who he is as a man just by listening to these 11 songs that last 33 minutes. And there are a lot of artists, I would say most artists can accomplish that in an album that's double the time.
And the biggest flex on this album is the chorus in Land of Nod,
Mm-hmm.
where he says, "You can tell I'm in fact a native. I live this vivid shit. I ain't that creative."
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that really messed me up. I was like, dude, you can't flex like that. Because that was when he was like, and this is my mind. This is not what he's saying, but this is in my mind. That's where he says, "I'm not Lupe. I'm not trying to confuse you. There's nothing hidden here. I'm not Kendrick. This isn't hidden. This is no, man. This is. I'm not that creative."
I took it on as the stuff that I've seen is so extreme that there's no way I could have made this up. Like you can't make up a story of your father shooting your neighbor and then handing you the gun because he knows that you'll know what to do with it.
Without it,
There's no way someone could even think of that.
that is absolutely how he meant it. As someone looking at the big picture here, I can't help, and I think Paul Thompson mentioned it in his review as well. You can't help but look at this as a commentary on his own style of him saying, "I wasn't trying to trick you. I ended the song with my hero sold heroin. I tell you what I mean.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not out here bamboozling you.
Right. I'm not trying to entertain you. These
I'm
aren't
not trying to entertain you, but I'm not trying to like obscure things or like
right.
tease little pieces of it. This is this is what I do, and it's real.
Yep.
Um, and it's concise, and I could tell this to your 16-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's transportable. Um, yeah, I mean it's unbelievable, man. And to me, there's only one album this year that really compares with it.
Okay. I think we're on the same page. I want to hear what your choice is, but I think we're probably on the same page about what compares to it.
It's the Bolt Cutters, my friend.
Yep. Yeah.
Because of just the level of depth that you go through in terms of the emotional journey, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I, this is
Yep.
where I come back to I Love, right? Um,
Beautiful track.
because after all that shit we just read, man, all that shit, like the sister thing falling out because he almost killed his cousin because his cousin was going to beat him like his father beat him. All of this ends with a sample from 1953 religious movie called The Robe, where Richard Burton says, like, peace, longevity, hospitality be unto you. Starts at 3
Mm-hmm.
minutes and 3 seconds, ends at 3 minutes 13 seconds, and that's the last thing said. Peace, love, prosperity, longevity be unto you. May you have this love. Bang.
And I think that's what I think. And first of all, I love is probably, it's probably like my favorite track of the year so far. Just because I wasn't expecting it. There's a lot more emotion that I've seen in this song that I wasn't expecting. It came as a total surprise to me. But what I love about it is, I think what he's saying, for me, it was deeper because if you notice, he never says "I love you."
Right.
Whenever he's talking about he's talking about his Mimi, his wife, his mother, and then Kev.
Yep.
He never says, at the end of each of his verses, he never says "I love you." He always says "I love." So I think what he's saying to me, what I was interpreting as, all of these horrible things have happened to me in the past, and the only way that I can get through them is by loving.
Totally. I need love. I need the concept of love with me, so that I can fight this stuff, so that I can get through.
Yes. Yes.
And it's dealing with that damage, man.
Yes. And so he's saying like that, he's trying to show us, like, obviously he loves these people, but he's trying to give us as an elder who's looking back on their ways, he's trying to give us the medicine,
Right.
The only way you're going to be able to get through this trauma, this generational trauma, is by loving.
Yeah.
And that's what, or he's saying, that's what worked for me, and that's what healed me, or not even healed me, but helped me deal with the scars, is that I love, the act of loving something.
Right.
I mean, it was just a beautiful, because I mean, it was just the most personal song that I've heard from him.
Yeah, and like you said, you get this kind of cold narration throughout, and you reach the end of this really odd conversation with your creepy gangster uncle, and he's been bleeding all over the floor with these things, right? With like the pain that he's been in, the people he's lost, the things he's done wrong. I mean, man, that line we read earlier about, they would be alive if I was there to help them. I mean, I don't know how many people I've heard tell me that, about that they felt that way. I mean, that's you're always going to feel like that if you've been through this stuff. And for him to find the love at the end and share it, and have the guts to share it, is incredible. And it means a lot. It's braver than a lot of tough rappers are going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Have the power to love. Let's get into some recommendation corner before we go. Perfume Genius Set My Heart on Fire Immediately. Perfume Genius is awesome and totally out there, and Jason is just like the best gay love song I've heard in a long time. I mentioned Eastern Medicine, Western.
Who's the art? You didn't, for Perfume Genius, who's the artist?
No, that's him. Perfume Genius is his name.
Oh, I mean, what's the album?
Oh, the album is called Set My Heart on Fire Immediately.
Oh.
You thought that was my ad-lib.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, Perfume Genius, set my heart on fire immediately. No, that's fair. Okay. I get it. I get it now. But yes, no, he's really talented, and this thing is just beautiful. Yes, I mentioned DJ Preservation's Eastern Medicine, Western Illness, which is going to have a lot of cool indie underground rappers who are very in the mindset of Ka. Like it's gonna have Tree, it's gonna have Navy Blue, it's gonna have Rock Marciano. You know, keep it in your mind, it's coming. His Bandcamp has the date. I don't remember. Also, if you loved the television show Dave, and you thought Dave is not the best part of this show, it's a man named Gata. You should look up Gata and find his 2019 album Locked In, which is a lot of fun. Good old fashioned Bay Area fun. Just moves and slaps. Good stuff. I like Gata. I was really happy to find out that he is absolutely the kind of weird California artist that I love following. So it's cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at. Anything you have?
You know what? I'll recommend the first half of Future's new album.
Ooh, yeah. First 10 songs, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. He's great. It's just there's a lot that shouldn't be there.
Very true.
But yeah, no, it's and June 5th, new Run the Jewels. Keep that bookmarked.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yep. Run the Jewels 4. And 2 very good singles out. YouTube those videos, they're a lot of fun. Wash your hands. Listen to Descendants of Cain.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, find the love in yourself and hold on to it. That's what the heck I'm talking about. Later. And I don't want to do